Johnny Mack with your daily comedy news. All right, I've been dropping a lot of content. This is the normal episode for the morning of Wednesday, March 30th. There was a bonus episode yesterday all about Will Smith and Chris Rock, as well as the normal episode that goes out at 3:05 Eastern. If there is more Oscar news, I will drop another bonus episode later today. Let's get rolling. Larry the Cable Guy says, "This is why my jokes are about my family. Their knees are so bad they can't get up stage to do anything." Andrew Slater, I kind of hope Chris Rock goes the Chappelle route and his next three specials are all about the alopecia community. Steve Byrne, imagine working on the film G.I. Jane. Finally, after 25 years, your film was finally mentioned at the Oscars. Jason Alexander, more serious, said, "What's sad for me is that Ukraine, climate disaster, voting rights, women's rights, poverty, discrimination, all will take a back seat in our national conscience and dialogue to a man who felt assault was the proper response to insensitive words." Mary Mack said, "Maybe there was a mosquito on his face." Will Sloan tweets, Norm Macdonald and Bob Saget weren't in the Oscar death montage. Perhaps it's because they weren't primarily known as movie people, or perhaps it's because, despite this, they made the greatest movie of all time, Dirty Work, from 1998, and Hollywood never forgave them for it. David Spade says, because comedians don't have a medical chart for everyone in the audience. Andy Kindler, who's got a stick up his hat, said people who think Ricky Gervais is a comedy superhero who can save any award show are already in line for his next randomly titled slap-together lowest common denominator downward punching special. Tom Segura said, F. Will Smith's candy ass smacking a dude 4 inches shorter and 50 pounds lighter. He's just in his feelings because his bald-headed B been effing around on him for years and he takes it. We all know who he wishes he could slap. Hashtag cuck Will. Wow. Maryland State Senator William C. Smith Jr., a.k.a. Will Smith, went to bed early Sunday night, says the Washington Post. He woke up Monday morning. His phone wouldn't stop dinging. I wonder why. People had mistaken him for the Oscar-winning actor, the one who shares his name, the one who slapped comedian Chris Rock on Sunday night in front of the whole world over a joke about his wife's hair. Good writing, Washington Post. State Senator Will Smith said, I got a few messages saying, you messed up. Actually, it was a little more colorful than that. Tiffany Haddish from Variety said, when I saw a black man stand up for his wife, that meant so much to me. As a woman who's been unprotected, for someone to say, like, keep my wife's name out of your mouth, leave my wife alone, that's what your husband's supposed to do, right? Protect you. That meant the world to me. And maybe the world might not like how it went down, but for me, it was the most beautiful thing I ever seen because it made me believe there are still men out there that love and care about their women and their wives. She then discussed Chris Rock and said, and that's their friend. As a friend, why would you do that? He didn't even run the joke by her. She probably wouldn't have said nothing. But you could see he was clearly ... and they exploited it. They exploited her, so he protected his wife. To me, I went up to her and said, I'm cleaning this up here. You better perform a certain act on Will, girl. Tiffany added, you better put that in your magazine. That's what I told her. Well, Chris Rock tickets got a lot more popular. Variety points out Chris will return to the stage for his ongoing comedy tour this week. You can insert the meme of Michael Jackson eating popcorn because I can't wait to hear what Chris Rock says on stage. One secondary ticketing marketplace reports they've sold more tickets to Chris Rock's tour overnight than they did in the past month combined. Ticket prices have surged, going from $46 a ticket to $341. The Melbourne Comedy Festival has kicked off. I'll talk about that in the second half. But from the Sydney Morning Herald, at first, when Scottish comedian Fern Brady saw Chris Rock slapped on the Oscars, she admits feeling a little sympathy for Will Smith, because maybe his wife's been crying about being bald, but the feeling didn't last long. Fern Brady said, they're really rich. She could afford to buy a wig made of gold. I was talking about this with other comedians this morning. What a lot of comedians are saying is they worry the attack has basically legitimized being able to get up and punch us. She said, my worst gig ever was great. I got chased out of the venue and then out of the village by angry villagers. There's a cliche at the moment, at least in the UK, that you can't say anything in comedy. For me, comedy is the freest I am in any area of my life to say whatever I want. But definitely in the UK, audiences will take great offense at it. Seems like Britain and America are very bad for the feeling that somebody could get up and attack comedians. English comedian Phil Wong jokes the first thing he did after seeing the incident. I canceled Will Smith's comps to my show. I don't care what he posts on Instagram about me. Australian stand-up Lewis Garnham said, Chris Rock can say whatever the F he wants. If you go to a comedy show, you should understand the fact that you might get annoyed at some of the things the comedian says, and that happens in life. If I was at this function and someone said something that frustrated me, I wouldn't slap them. From page 6, comedy club owners fear for their comics after the Will Smith slap. I'm not a comedian. I'm not a performer. I'm not on stage. I don't own a comedy club. I think this whole thing is overblown. I don't think we're going to suddenly see people storming stages and slapping comedians. But hey, it makes for a good article. Comedy Cellar owner Noam Dwarman tells Page 6, Chris was hit for a joke that's never okay. There's no limiting principle to it, and it must not be normalized. We support Chris completely. I think even Will Smith would agree, and probably regrets what happened. Let's hope it doesn't become a thing. It's not going to become a thing. It's not going to become a thing. Gentlemen used to challenge each other to duels, so humans are clearly vulnerable to these sort of things. Stop. Donnie Zoldan owns Stand Up New York. I've been in touch with a handful of comics, and every one of them thinks it's insane what happened. They've been concerned about cancel culture, but this is next level crazy, where they're now concerned about their safety. Comics are here to entertain and make us laugh, full stop. To retaliate physically against a comedian for telling jokes is totally uncalled for, and I hope the Academy sends a strong message in support for Chris Rock. Caroline Hirsch owns Caroline's on Broadway. Hirsch says, comedians should be able to feel comfortable in being able to perform. I can't with this. You get it, all right? The owner is, yes, we want the comedians to... Nobody's getting up on stage and assaulting comedians. What else can we talk about? Jim Gaffigan is in Nashville tonight from the Tennessean. Jim made a poster for his show proclaiming that all of the city's hot chicken was still not hot enough. Jim said, I love hot chicken, but I'm somebody who can't pace themselves. So later that night, the bill comes due for the hot chicken, but I'm still a guy that if I'm at Nashville, I'm going to get hot chicken. The question is, before or after the show? Smart thing would be to do it after the show, but given that the promoters are Outback Concerts and they're from Nashville, I think they're probably going to give me some hot chicken before. I did a show in Lafayette, Louisiana, and they brought crawfish. They're just like, whatever the local specialties are, this fat guy's going to want this food. That's my equivalent of touring with an entourage. It's the food. Great stuff there. Natasha Leggero caught up with the Chicago Tribune. She describes her new show, Rat in the Kitchen. That's a cooking competition series on TBS as a cooking whodunit, almost in the vein of Knives Out or Clue. We have all these chefs that are coming on to win a cash prize, but what no one knows, including Leggero, is which one of the chefs is the saboteur, the rat, who's going to sabotage everybody's dishes. You never know who you can trust. She talked about her worst show. Listen to this story. Get rid of the kids. This was after the results of the last presidential election came in. I was so ecstatic. This was in LA and people were partying in the streets. My husband and I were driving home from the beach and I had to pee bad. I was not drunk, but I never had to pee so bad. This was in the middle of COVID, so nothing was open. And then I saw the Comedy Store and I told my husband, pull over. I can't take it anymore. I never had to pee this bad. So I went to the Comedy Store and banged on the door. It was 11 a.m. There's usually a few cleaners there, but it was COVID. Everything was locked up, but I had to pee so bad. So I went to a grate that's in the parking lot. I lifted up my dress and squatted over the grate and I peed in a grate. Thankfully, I was wearing a dress. Pants would have been a little more difficult. It's very hard to be subtle when you're peeing as a woman because you got to squat. Men could just be standing there and you wouldn't even know. So I did a very ladylike squat. And then I did my little jump to drip. I remember looking up and seeing that my name was written on the building. And I'm like, you know what? I think this is going to be okay. So if anybody wants to come up to me to arrest me, I'll be like, hey, look, my name's on the wall, so I'm allowed to pee in this grate. I don't know if anybody saw me, though. There were people driving by, and there were people on the street. I was trying not to squat too much. If somebody did see me, it kind of looked like I was just in a strange yoga pose in the parking lot. But I remember my husband, his mouth was just hanging open. He couldn't believe I was being in the parking lot over this grate. I think he was annoyed. He was afraid someone would see, but I don't know. I just felt like anything's possible now that we have a new president, So you know what? Why not? All right, if you'd like to support the show, there's a couple things you can do. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. You can throw $5 in the tip jar. I will take your money. I will go to the National Donuts chain. I will buy one of these large iced coffees with caramel and milk. It's coming in very handy this week with all these bonus episodes that I'm putting out. Also, it's Wednesday. It's trivia night. I got to hit the brewery with my buddy Glenn, play some trivia. So if you'd like to buy Glenn a beer, you can buy Glenn a beer or 5/7 a beer. Beer $7, but you can donate $5 and buy Glenn 5/7 of beer at buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. You can also become a premium subscriber to the podcast. The podcast continues to be free, but if you would like it without commercials, and you'd like early releases for $4.99 a month, you can become a paid subscriber on Apple Podcasts, get the episodes commercial free, plus early releases and bonus episodes. Just open up Apple Podcasts. You will see the option. Moon Knight is out today. People are very excited for Moon Knight. Newsweek wrote about it and said, Moon Knight is almost here, signaling Oscar Isaac's foray into the MCU. On the show, Oscar Isaac does a questionable English accent. He talked about the process of getting into the character and revealed that his inspiration was comedian Karl Pilkington. Remember Karl from when podcasts were new and Ricky Gervais had like the hottest podcast and Karl was the, dumb guy on that podcast? That's Karl. Oscar Isaac said, it was set in London, and I asked why. And the answer was like, we just have too many characters in New York, so they just decided to change it up. Let's make him an expat in London. Oscar said his love for English humor and shows like The Office and Stath Lets Flats help him create his version of Stephen Grant. And there's just so much humor that I find funny, and there's an opportunity here to make something. What if we make him English? What if Peter Sellers was approached with a Marvel project? What would he do? And I started thinking about that, and that led me to Karl Pilkington from An Idiot Abroad. Newsweek writes, for the unversed, Karl Pilkington is an English comedian best known for his An Idiot Abroad series alongside Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant. His stressed-out, unintentionally funny type of humor is a far cry from the suave and polished presence fans are used to seeing from Oscar Isaac. The Melbourne International Comedy Festival has started. Fashion Journal caught up with comedian Lauren Bonner. Lauren says, I'm a comedian, but if you don't believe me, you can come see my new show, Elephant, at the festival this year. Lauren says, the Melbourne Comedy Festival is huge. It's so big it can be totally overwhelming, but it's also stacked with so many amazing shows. If you don't know where to start, let me hear you. First up, I recommend you see me, Lauren Bonner, and my show, Elephant. It's 6:40 every night except Wednesdays at Trades Hall. Now that I'm done being selfish, you can also see Ben Cochin and Conchetta Caristo's show, Funny as Sin. I'm also excited to see Frankie McNair's show, Relax Your Knees. It's their debut solo show, and I think it'll be a cracker. Some other shows that will take silly to another level entirely are Emma Holland's Dreamer in the Mist and Sam Campbell's Companion. Both of these acts do the kind of comedy that makes me wonder if they're from the same planet as me. If you want total chaos, try late night shows like Dan Rath's Cockroach Party or Hot Department's After Party. Because I'm in Sydney, I don't get to see Melbourne-based acts too often, so I'm really keen to catch Andrew Portelli's Tough Guy, Urvi Majumdar's Urvi Went to an All-Girls School, Grace Jarvis's Digging a Hole, and Brownwin Kuss's Any Goss. These guys are also funny and crushing it on the local club circuit. The Melbourne International Comedy Festival has started. It runs all the way to April 24th. Melbourne is a fantastic city. I loved my time there. The Botanic Gardens in that city are absolutely beautiful. What a wonderful place. I hope I get back to Melbourne someday. Hey, maybe an international comedy festival will be like, hey, fly on down. It's on us. I would go. Just saying. The festival did not get off to the best of starts for comedian Mark Watson. His day-long flight to get there was canceled on the tarmac at Heathrow. He tweeted, my flight's been canceled on the runway, and the captain says it will now continue at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Continue is doing a bit of lifting there, given that so far we've traveled 0 of the 10,000 miles. Jeff Foxworthy is on Late Night with Seth Meyers tonight. All right, follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. Become a premium subscriber on Apple Podcasts. $4.99 a month gets you commercial-free episodes, early releases, and bonus episodes. If there's new Oscar stuff, I will drop another bonus episode. Otherwise, see you tomorrow.